I made a decision that night, and I would make her face the truth she'd hidden from everyone, including herself. The photographs told a story I'd been trying to ignore for 6 months. My wife, Rebecca's smile, genuine and unguarded, in pictures from before we moved to Denver. And then, the recent ones forced. Tied at the corners, exhaustion bleeding through her careful makeup. I traced my finger across our daughter Lily's face in the Christmas photo from last year. 10 years old, holding up a watercolor painting of our family. This year, there would be no painting. Lily had stopped creating art 3 months ago. I'm Michael Chen, 38 years old, and I've spent the last decade building enterprise security systems. My job is finding vulnerabilities, identifying patterns that others miss, protecting what matters most. I'd gotten good at reading data, at seeing the anomalies that signal something's wrong. But I'd missed the most important pattern of all, the one destroying my own family. Rebecca and I met during her residency at Denver Health. I was consulting on their cybersecurity overhaul. She was a second-year resident surviving on coffee and determination. Our first conversation happened at 2 a.m. in the hospital cafeteria. She was studying for boards. I was debugging code. She asked if I believed in fate. I told her I believed in probability and good timing. She laughed and said those were the same thing. We got married 18 months later in a small ceremony at the Denver Botanic Gardens. Her mother, Patricia, spent the entire reception telling anyone who'd listened that Rebecca could have married Dr. Harrison's son, the cardiovascular surgeon. But she chose happiness instead, Patricia would add, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I should have paid more attention to that smile. Lily came 2 years later. Rebecca wanted to name her after her grandmother, but Patricia insisted Lily was too plain, not distinguished enough for a doctor's daughter. We named her Lily anyway. It was one of the few times I'd seen Rebecca stand up to her mother. The problems started subtly. They always do. 6 months ago, Rebecca's father died suddenly. Heart attack, no warning. Patricia was devastated, lost. Rebecca, being Rebecca, immediately suggested her mother move in with us temporarily. Just until she gets back on her feet, she promised. I agreed because I loved my wife and because I understood grief. My own parents had passed when I was in my 20s. I knew what it meant to lose your anchors. Patricia arrived with 3 suitcases and her new boyfriend, Daniel. Nobody had mentioned Daniel. He was 55, silver-haired, with the kind of smooth charm that made my instincts flare. He worked in financial consulting, which seemed to mean a lot of lunch meetings and very little actual work. Rebecca didn't tell you about Daniel? Patricia asked, watching my face. Oh, well, we've been seeing each other for about 4 months now. He's been such a comfort during this difficult time. 4 months. Her husband had been dead for 3 weeks. The first incident happened during Lily's parent-teacher conference. Miss Rodriguez praised Lily's artistic talent, showed us a series of sketches Lily had done, imaginative scenes of underwater cities, dragons in libraries, families having picnics on clouds. Patricia came with us, insisted on it. I want to be involved in my granddaughter's education, she'd said. Miss Rodriguez smiled at Lily. You have such a gift for storytelling through your art. Patricia leaned forward. Art is lovely as a hobby, of course. But Lily, you need to focus on subjects that matter. Math, science. Dr. Chen's daughter, you know Dr. Chen. Rebecca's colleague, she just won the state science fair. Now that's an accomplishment. I watched Lily's face, close up like a flower at nightfall. She didn't say anything, just nodded and folded her hands in her lap. Rebecca squeezed her mother's arm, whispered something I couldn't hear. Patricia patted her hand. I'm just being honest, dear. Someone has to prepare her for the real world. That night, I found Lily sitting on her bed, staring at her sketchbook. She wasn't drawing, just staring. Your artwork is amazing, I told her. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Grandma says art doesn't matter. She says I should be more like Emma Chen. Emma's going to be a doctor like Mom. Emma Chen is 11 years old. She doesn't know what she's going to be, and neither do you. That's okay. You're 10. Your job is to be 10. Lily looked at me with those serious dark eyes. Grandma says Mom could have been chief of surgery by now if she hadn't married you. She says Mom settled. The words hit like a punch to the chest. Not because they hurt me, though they did, but because they revealed how deep Patricia's poison had already spread. Did Grandma say that in front of you? Lily nodded. When you and Mom were at work? She says it a lot. I held my daughter and felt something cold and determined settle into my bones. This had to stop, but I needed proof. Rebecca wouldn't believe me otherwise. She'd been conditioned her whole life to accept her mother's honest observations as love. That's when I started paying attention. I noticed Patricia going through our mail when she thought no one was watching. I noticed Daniel asking careful questions about Rebecca's salary, her benefits, her retirement accounts. I noticed the way Patricia would rearrange Lily's bookshelf, replacing her art books with SAT prep guides and medical textbooks for when she's older. I noticed Lily stopped drawing. I installed cameras. Not in bedrooms or bathrooms. I'm not a monster, but in the common areas. Smart home security, completely legal in my own house. I told Rebecca it was because of the uptick in break-ins in our neighborhood. She barely looked up from her patient charts when I mentioned it. The footage from the first week made me physically ill. Patricia, standing over Lily at the kitchen table. Your handwriting is atrocious. How are you going to be a doctor with handwriting like that? Oh, you don't want to be a doctor? Well, what do you want to be? A starving artist? Don't be ridiculous. Daniel. When Patricia stepped out of the room. Your mom works so hard, doesn't she? Almost never home. Must be tough. Having a mom who cares more about strangers than her own family. Patricia again, flipping through Lily's sketchbook. These are nice, I suppose. But Emma Chen's mother told me Emma spends her free time reading medical journals. Now, that's initiative. Maybe you should try reading something educational instead of drawing these fantasy things. I watched my daughter's shoulders hunch a little more each day. Watched her start to flinch when Patricia entered a room. Watched her smile become as forced as her mother's. And I watched something else. Something that made my blood run cold. On a Tuesday afternoon, when Rebecca and I were both at work, Patricia and Daniel went into our home office. Our locked home office. Daniel picked the lock. I watched him do it, smooth and practiced, and they began photographing documents. Insurance policies, bank statements, Rebecca's employment contract, the deed to our house. I saved everything, every frame, every conversation the cameras caught. And I started digging into Daniel's background. Daniel Morrison had 3 previous addresses in the last 5 years. In each city, he'd been involved with a widow or divorcee. In each city, there were legal disputes after the relationships ended. Financial disputes. 2 protective orders. 1 arrest for fraud. Charges dropped when he skipped town. He was running a long con, and my mother-in-law was the mark. But she wasn't just a passive victim. The things she said to Lily about Rebecca, those came from somewhere deep and toxic inside her. The con man hadn't created that. He just weaponized it. I tried talking to Rebecca. Carefully, obliquely. Do you think your mom is doing okay? She seems stressed. She just lost Dad, Michael. Of course, she's stressed. We need to be patient with her. I'm worried about Lily. She seems withdrawn. It's an adjustment, having Grandma here. But it's good for Lily to spend time with family. Mom's teaching her discipline, structure, things I don't have time to teach her because I'm always at the hospital. There it was. The guilt Patricia had been cultivating. Rebecca actually believed she was failing as a mother because she had a demanding career. Patricia had spent months planting those seeds. I needed a different approach. Thanksgiving passed quietly. Too quietly. Patricia made pointed comments about Rebecca's turkey being dry, about Lily's table manners, about my family's absence. It's so sad that Lily doesn't have grandparents on both sides. Michael's parents passed so young. At least she has me. But I was patient. I was waiting for the right moment. The perfect trap. It came in the form of Christmas. Rebecca wanted to host Christmas Eve dinner. A fresh start, she said. Her colleagues from the hospital, a few neighbors, family, Patricia loved the idea. Finally, a chance to show everyone the beautiful home Rebecca has made. Despite everything. Despite everything. Meaning despite me. I volunteered to handle the technical setup, Christmas lights, music system, the projector for showing family photos. Rebecca was thrilled. You're the best, she said, kissing my cheek. I don't know what I'd do without you. I knew exactly what she'd do without me. She'd stay trapped in her mother's web of guilt and manipulation, slowly losing herself. Watching our daughter learn that love meant constant criticism and conditional approval. The day before Christmas Eve, I found Lily in her room. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by torn pieces of paper. Her sketchbook, ripped to pieces. Baby, what happened? I'm not good enough. Her voice was flat, emotionless. 10 years old and already defeated. Grandma's right. I should focus on real things. Important things. I gathered the pieces, and my hands were shaking. This was beyond manipulation. This was breaking a child's spirit. Lily, look at me. I waited until she met my eyes. You are good enough. You are more than good enough. And tomorrow night, I'm going to prove it to everyone. Christmas Eve arrived with fresh snow and the smell of Rebecca's famous prime rib roasting. Guests started arriving at 6. Dr. Martinez from Rebecca's hospital. The Johnsons from next door. Rebecca's college roommate Sarah. 20 people filling our living room with wine and laughter and holiday cheer. Patricia held court, playing the gracious grandmother. Yes, Rebecca worked so hard. Too hard, I tell her, but she won't listen. And little Lily, well, we're working on helping her focus on academics. She's a sweet girl, but she needs direction. Daniel stayed close to Patricia, one hand on her lower back, scanning the room with those calculating eyes. I saw him notice the expensive artwork on our walls, the high-end electronics, Rebecca's medical degree framed in her office, adding up dollar signs. Dinner was perfect. Rebecca glowed with pride. For a moment, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with in that hospital cafeteria. Then Patricia said, "The roast is a bit overdone, dear, but it's edible. You're so busy. I know you don't have time to perfect your cooking." Rebecca's smile tightened. "Thanks, Mom." After dinner, I stood up and clinked my glass. I wanted to take a moment to share some special memories. I've put together a little slideshow of this past year. A celebration of family. Rebecca beamed. Patricia nodded approvingly. Daniel looked bored. I dimmed the lights and started the projector. The first images were exactly what everyone expected. Family photos from throughout the year. Lily's 10th birthday. Rebecca receiving an award at the hospital. A hiking trip in the Rockies. Guests made appreciative sounds. Then the images changed. Lily's artwork filled the screen. The pieces she created before Patricia moved in. Vibrant, imaginative, full of joy and color. Dragons and castles and families floating on clouds. "These are beautiful," Sarah said. "Lily, are these yours?" Before Lily could answer, the slideshow continued. A video clip. Patricia's voice filled the room through the speakers. "These fantasy drawings are a waste of time, Lily. Emma Chen's mother told me Emma spends her weekends at science camp. Now, that's how you build a future. Not by coloring pretty pictures." The room went silent. Another clip. Patricia, flipping through documents in my office. "These numbers are better than I thought. Rebecca's quite comfortable. The life insurance alone is worth..." I paused it, stood up, walked to where Patricia sat frozen in her chair. "Would you like to explain to everyone why you and Daniel were photographing our financial documents 2 weeks ago?" Patricia's face had gone white. Daniel was already standing, edging toward the door. Rebecca stared at the frozen image on the screen. "Mom, what is he talking about?" "It's not I can explain." I clicked to the next slide. Screenshots of Daniel's arrest record. The protective orders. The pattern of financial fraud. Daniel Morrison. Also known as Daniel Marsh in Phoenix, Dan Morrison in Seattle, and David Morrison in Portland. Specializes in befriending vulnerable widows and systematically draining their assets. Dr. Martinez pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police." Daniel bolted. Made it 3 steps before Mr. Johnson, former linebacker for CU Boulder, blocked his path. "I don't think so, friend." Patricia was shaking. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know about Daniel. But Michael, you had no right to spy on me. To humiliate me like this in front of everyone. No right?" My voice was calm, but I felt anything but calm. "You've spent 6 months systematically destroying my daughter's self-esteem. Manipulating my wife. Going through our private documents. You want to talk about rights?" Rebecca's hand was over her mouth. "Mom, is it true? What you said to Lily?" The next clip played. Patricia's voice, so casual, so cruel. "Your mother could have been chief of surgery by now if she hadn't married him. She's settled, Lily. Don't make the same mistakes she did." Rebecca stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Get out." "Rebecca, sweetheart. I was only trying to help." "Get out." Rebecca's voice cracked. "You've been poisoning my daughter against me. Against Michael." Filling her head with. She couldn't finish. She was crying too hard. Sarah moved to comfort her while Dr. Martinez spoke quietly with the 911 dispatcher. I knelt in front of Lily, who was watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. None of what Grandma said is true. Your mom didn't settle. I'm the one who won the lottery when she said yes. And you? You're perfect exactly as you are. Lily's face crumpled. I tore up my drawings. I thought they were bad. We'll tape them back together. Every single one. And you'll make new ones, better ones. Because that's what you do when someone tries to break something beautiful, you rebuild it stronger. The police arrived. Daniel was arrested. Turned out there was an active warrant in Seattle. Patricia wasn't charged with anything, but she left with her suitcases that night, escorted by officers who wanted to make sure there was no further disturbance. At the door, she turned back. Rebecca, I'm your mother. You can't just... You're right, Rebecca said quietly. You're my mother, which makes what you did so much worse. You didn't just attack my husband. You attacked my daughter. You took a bright, creative, confident little girl and tried to make her ashamed of who she is. Because that's what you did to me my whole life, isn't it? And I let you keep doing it because I thought that was what love looked like. Patricia's face twisted. I only wanted what was best for you. Both of you. No. You wanted us to be what you thought was best. There's a difference. And I'm done pretending I don't see it. The door closed. Rebecca sagged against it, crying so hard she could barely breathe. I held her while our guests quietly let themselves out, except for Sarah, who stayed to help clean up and make sure Rebecca was okay. The next morning was Christmas. Lily came downstairs to find all her torn artwork taped back together and framed on the walls. A new professional art supply kit sat under the tree with a note. For the artist in our family, we can't wait to see what you create. Love, Mom and Dad. She cried. We all cried, but they were different tears. The weeks that followed were hard. Rebecca started therapy, working through decades of emotional manipulation and conditional love. She cut off contact with her mother entirely, at least for now. Maybe someday, she told me, but not until she gets help, and maybe not even then. Lily started art classes at the community center. Within a month, her teacher called to say Lily had remarkable talent, real potential. Did we know about the Young Artist Scholarship Program? 3 months later, Lily's piece was selected for the Denver Young Artists Exhibition at the Museum of Contemporary Art. A watercolor called The Quiet Room, a girl sitting alone in a gray space, with colorful birds flying out from her hands, escaping into a bright sky. Patricia sent a card. Inside, she'd written, I'm getting help. I'm learning that the way I showed love was actually control. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm trying to understand what I did wrong. Rebecca showed it to me, her hands trembling. What do I do with this? Nothing, right now. When you're ready, if you're ready, you'll know. But Rebecca, you don't owe her anything. Not forgiveness, not a relationship, not even a response. Whatever you choose, I support you. She nodded slowly. I spent my whole life trying to be perfect enough for her approval. And I taught Lily to do the same thing. I'm so sorry. You didn't know. How could you? It's all you ever knew. But you saw it. You protected her when I couldn't see what was happening. We protect her together. That's what we do. That's what we'll always do. 6 months after that Christmas Eve, Rebecca got promoted to Chief of Emergency Medicine. At her celebration dinner, she gave a speech that made me proud enough to burst. I spent a long time believing I had to choose between being a good doctor and being a good mother. Someone very important to me taught me that was a false choice. That I could be both. That I didn't have to diminish one part of myself to elevate another. That the people who love you want you to be whole, not perfect. She found my eyes across the room. Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see, for protecting what matters most, for loving all of me, including the broken parts. Lily was there too, sketching the celebration on her tablet. She'd moved to digital art, creating animations now. Her latest project was a series about a girl who discovers she has superpowers, but only when she's brave enough to be herself. Is that you? I asked, watching over her shoulder. Maybe, she said, smiling. Or maybe it's Mom. Or maybe it's both of us. That night, after everyone had gone home, I found Rebecca standing in front of Lily's artwork on our wall. The framed, taped-together pieces from that terrible day. We should replace these, she said. With her new work. These are just reminders of... No, I interrupted gently. These are reminders that broken things can be repaired. That damage doesn't have to be permanent. That we survived. She leaned against me. Do you think she'll ever really recover? Lily? I think she's already stronger than we know. She survived 6 months of systematic criticism, and she's still drawing, still creating, still brave enough to put her art out into the world. That's not just recovery. That's resilience. And me? Do you think I'll ever stop hearing my mother's voice in my head, telling me I'm not enough? I think you'll learn to recognize it for what it is, an old recording from someone who was hurting, and then you'll replace it with something better. Something true. What's that? That you're exactly who you were meant to be. That you're an incredible doctor and an incredible mother and an incredible wife. That you didn't settle. That your daughter is lucky to have you. That I'm lucky to have you. She kissed me then, and it felt like coming home after a long, painful journey. A year later, Patricia reached out again. She'd been in therapy, she said. She understood now that she'd been trying to control Rebecca's life because she'd felt so powerless in her own. That she projected her disappointments onto her daughter and granddaughter. She wasn't asking for forgiveness or reconciliation. She just wanted us to know she was working on herself. Rebecca read the letter aloud to me, and Lily, "What do you think?" she asked. Lily considered it seriously. "I think Grandma hurt us. But I also think people can change if they really try. Mom says that about her patients all the time. That's different, honey. Medical recovery versus..." "Is it?" Lily challenged. "You're always telling me that mental health is just as important as physical health. Maybe Grandma's sick in a different way. Maybe she's trying to get better." From the mouths of 11-year-olds. Rebecca and I talked about it for weeks. Eventually, we agreed to let Patricia visit supervised, brief, with clear boundaries. She came to Lily's art show, stood in front of the quiet room for a long time. "I was the gray," she said finally. "Wasn't I? The thing that took the color away." Lily looked at her grandmother steadily. "Yeah, but you don't have to be anymore. That's the thing about art. You can always start over with a fresh canvas." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Probably not," Lily agreed. "But I'm giving it anyway. Not because you deserve it, because I deserve to let it go." I watched this exchange and felt something shift. Not healing that would take more time, but maybe the beginning of it. The possibility. That's the thing about damage. Sometimes the worst harm comes from the people who claim to love us most. They break us with good intentions, crush us with expectations, poison us with conditional approval, and we let them because we've been taught that's what love looks like. But real love doesn't require you to be smaller, quieter, different. Real love doesn't keep score or set impossible standards. Real love protects, even when protection is hard, especially when it's hard. I think about that Christmas Eve sometimes. About the choice I made to expose the truth, knowing it would hurt people I cared about. Some might say I was cruel, that I should have handled it privately. But privacy was how the abuse continued. Silence was how it spread. Sometimes love means being the quiet one who notices everything, who documents, who waits for the perfect moment to shine a light on what's hiding in the shadows, who refuses to let the people they love be slowly destroyed by someone else's poison. Rebecca and Lily are thriving now. Rebecca just published her first research paper on emergency medicine protocols. Lily's applying to an arts magnet school for middle school. Patricia sends letters every few months, updating us on her therapy progress. We respond sometimes. We don't sometimes. We're learning that we get to choose. And in the end, that's what mattered most. Not revenge, not punishment, but reclaiming the right to choose who has access to our lives, our peace, our daughter's beautiful mind. Because the quietest person in the room might just be the one who sees everything. The one who waits. The one who knows that sometimes protection looks like exposure, and love looks like boundaries, and healing starts with telling the truth. Even when the truth tears everything apart. Especially then.